Well, hi there, food friends. It's Kevin.
Hi, I'm Ralph. I'm behind the camera.
And welcome to Cavalcade of Food. So, we got ourselves some coffee. So we're making a coffee cake.
All right.
Yeah, and you know, coffee cakes used to be a very popular kind of thing to make at one time. And for some reason, you don't see a lot of coffee cakes anymore.
People are too busy nowadays, but coffee cake's a real social, kind of a social contract. It means you're going to spend some time and have a cup of joe. And
it'd be like you'd invite people over for coffee and you'd serve them some kind of cake to go with it. And I think it's funny that certainly coffee is probably more popular than ever. And we always laugh, and I know it's something you hear a lot of people say, especially, you know, of a certain age. Like, you know, if 20 years ago somebody told you you'd stand in line for 15 minutes to pay $4 for a cup of coffee, they'd say you were crazy.
Yeah.
You know, but we do it all the time now, so we love our coffee.
I mean, still there is socializing involved, but it's not the same as like the neighborly kind of coffee cake exchange of coffee and cake and mellow music.
And coffee cakes make great desserts too, because a lot of times I know when we have dinner, we're not having coffee with dinner. We might have wine or something else to drink with dinner, and so we have coffee afterwards. And it's nice to have something to go with the coffee.
And on one of our episodes, we made my dear Aunt Mercy's famous sour cream coffee cake.
Which is a great recipe.
It's a kind of a Polish thing, I think. And now, what are we making today?
Well, this is a coffee cake, a little different than your aunt's sour cream coffee cake, but we are using cream cheese. So we're going to make a cream cheese coffee cake with pecans, okay? So it's going to have like a cream cheese middle layer, and then, you know, cake on both sides of it. You'll see.
And then I know that you've created your own version of this with a glaze or a frosting.
Yeah, and then we'll put a glaze on top of it after the cakes come out of the oven. So, all right. I've got an 8-ounce block of cream cheese here that I've kind of cut up. And I cut it up that way so that it softens. You really want this, you know...
Room temp?
Yeah, because it's too hard to mix when it's cold. I've got 1/3 cup of sugar, okay? And I've got 1 egg, all right? So that's our filling. Cream cheese, sugar, and egg. So what I'm going to do here... we're going to kind of get that all stirred together and have our filling made. And you just want to just combine everything nicely. It really, once you have all your ingredients together, this cake really comes together quickly.
Okay.
Okay, so here's our, okay, I'm going to let me just
get it off the sides.
Yeah.
Make sure not to...
want to make sure everything's good and in. So, all right, done. Okay, so here's our filling, okay? We're just going to set that aside. Now we're going to put our dry ingredients together. So in this bowl, Ralph, I've got 2 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. To that, I'm going to add 1/3 cup of brown sugar and 1/3 cup of white sugar.
Okay.
All right? Now, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon cinnamon, 1 teaspoon baking powder. In it goes.
Okay.
So let's combine all of that and put our dry ingredients together. Now, I've got the oven preheated to 350 degrees, and I'm going to use an 8-inch tube pan. If you don't have an 8-inch tube pan, which is sort of a smaller... here's what an 8-inch tube pan likes. This makes sort of a high, thick cake. You could use a standard tube pan, which is a 10-inch, a little larger. You could also use a springform pan if you had one with an insert. Okay, but this is what I'm going to make the cake in.
Those are pretty easy to find if you don't have them.
Okay, so here we go. Now we've got our dry ingredients. Great. Now we need our wet ingredients. So I have got a 1/2 cup of milk here. And to the 1/2 cup of milk, I'm adding a 1/2 cup of vegetable oil.
Oh, you put it right into the milk.
And then to the milk and the vegetable oil, I'm going to put 2 eggs.
2 more eggs, okay.
I'm putting all that together.
And then a little dash of your coffee from your cup.
I could, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to just mix this together. And now we have our wet ingredients sort of combined here.
Blended, okay.
Right. Now what I'm going to do is let me get another spatula.
So that's 2 eggs, milk, and oil.
2 eggs, a half a cup of oil, half a cup of milk. Now we're going to put that into this.
Into the dry.
Yep. And then we're going to mix this together. This you don't need a electric mixer for. Just use a spatula or a big spoon, and you just want this to combine.
Just make sure it all gets wet.
Yeah, it's going to be a thick batter. I will tell you that in advance, okay? You can see how it's coming together, and you see how it's kind of,
yes,
you know, it is a thick batter. That's why it's good to use a spatula,
right,
because it kind of lets you scrape the dry stuff off the sides and the bottom of your bowl that hasn't been mixed in yet. Okay, now that we have this just combined.
Kind of takes on the color of the brown sugar.
Yeah, it does. I've got 1 cup of chopped up pecans here. Now,
what else could you use?
Could use walnuts. Could use almonds. Those would all be good. We like the pecans in this one.
In this particular cake, it gives it a certain sweetness.
But I've done it with walnuts before because that's just what I had on hand, and we always talk about, you know, using what you've got in your pantry. Okay. There.
So that's good.
So I've got my batter and I've got my filling.
What's next?
We're going to put it together. So we'll come back. Let me get some of this stuff off the table, and we'll come back and we'll put it all together in the pan.
What if we were to add a little bit of vanilla to that? Because vanilla tastes really good. Are you with me so far?
Yeah. We could do that. You could put a teaspoon of vanilla in there if you wanted to.
Okay,
it wouldn't hurt anybody.
Let's do that.
Okay.
You with me so far?
Yeah, sure. We'll be back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take...
Did you grease that?
I did. I sprayed this pan well with nonstick spray.
Okay.
And we're going to take about, you know, about half of our batter, and we're going to put it down here in the pan.
So you can just kind of fill the bottom of the pan.
It's thick batter, so you know what? You got to work with it. And you want to spread it just on the bottom of the pan. Make sure you get to the edges. Again, we're using a small 8-inch tube pan. You could use a larger standard tube pan. These small ones actually, Ralph, are kind of hard to find now.
Oh.
But you know where they pop up sometimes at rummage sales
right.
and
I guess
thrift shops?
That's what I was thinking. I know I've seen them there when I said that they were easy to find.
But I'm sure they still make them, and maybe you could get it in a kitchen shop or a baking shop. But anyways,
so is it important to smooth it out, or just get it down to cover the bottom?
Well, you just want to cover the bottom. I'm smoothing it out because I want to kind of get an even.
And then we're going to put that on the other half.
Yeah, so now we're going to take our filling, which we added a teaspoon of vanilla in per Ralph.
As per me.
Okay, at his request. And I'm going to just put this in like this and go all the way around. Okay.
Oh, that's how you get that. I was wondering, because, you know, I've had this before, ladies and gents, and there's a kind of fun unevenness to it, and I think it's because of the way that it falls in, right?
Yeah. So, you know, once this thing bakes, it all kind of comes together a little bit, but I'm just trying to...
But I like that about it, that it had kind of like these...
There's a randomness to it.
Well, there's like peaks and valleys and ups and downs to it.
Well, isn't that life?
That's life.
Peaks and valleys and ups and downs. So
life,
you know what?
in a coffee cake.
So we're going to get our filling in. Okay. I think I got most of it here. Doesn't that look good?
Come in.
It smells good. It smells good. I love that cream cheese smell.
I love cream cheese anything. And so then you're going to put the top
on.
So
now this is where you kind of have to...
Be careful.
Well, it's just, you don't want to mix all this. You want to put this on the top.
Kind of as a layer.
Yeah, so I'm going to lightly drop this in. Okay? like so. See this, because the batter is thick.
Yeah.
And so we're going to lightly drop this in over the cream cheese. Use your finger. And
the first appliances.
Yes, our first utensil. And
then
we're going to kind of try to smooth it over a little bit.
Oh.
Okay.
See, that's I think what creates that cragginess to it that I like.
So let me get the rest of this in. I think I got most of it.
Our moms would not want us wasting a bit of that.
Okay. So now I'm going to get a little smaller. I'm going to use my spoonula here. And we're going to just...
Did you make that up?
No.
That's really called a spoonula?
Yeah, it's a, kind of a half spoon, half spatula.
So you spread that nutty love all around?
Yeah, and I'm going to try to, put it... Again, it's hard because the cream cheese is soft. And I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but just try to spread it like this. See how I'm going like towards the middle and then towards the outside edge?
Without getting them too mixed up together, but just to use it. It's almost like, you're mixing something heavy over something soft.
And this is going to rise. This is actually going to rise a little bit over the pan. So I could even use the 10-inch pan, but I really like this size. So
does this end up upside down? Or not?
Well, no, it ends up right side up.
So but you're going to put a frosting over this part?
Yes, once we get it out of the pan. All right, now this is going to cook for an hour, bake. Okay?
I can wait.
Okay. I know you can. All right, so we're going to put an hour on the timer at 350 degrees. We'll be back and get it out of the oven and get it cooled off.
I get this kitchen smelling delicious on this Sunday morning.
So it has been about an hour.
And boy, does this kitchen smell delicious.
Yes.
Ooh,
looky here.
It really did some fun rising.
So here's what I'm going to do, Ralph. We're going to let this just hang here in the pan for about 5-10 minutes, okay? Let it cool off a little bit. Then we're going to take it out of the pan. But you can see how the white part here is the cream cheese part. You'll see it more when we bring it out of the pan.
My favorite part.
But, it came up a little bit over the pan because I used a smaller pan. So if you had a larger pan, obviously that wouldn't do that. But that's okay. I kind of like it this thickness. So.
All right, so cool your jets, cream cheese coffee cake, and we'll be back to frost you in a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to get it out of the pan. I'm shaking it to make sure it's loose.
So you don't have to do that knife thing?
Yeah, around it. It doesn't look like that. It looks like it's loose in the pan, so that's good. So I'm going to kind of do it like this. And then lift our pan up. There we go.
Wow. Is that all cream cheese in the middle?
Yes.
Oh,
that's the cream cheese layer in the
middle.
Isn't that beautiful?
That kind of fluffed out too.
So there it is. So we're going to just let it kind of cool, and then we'll make an icing for it after it cools down a bit. Okay, so it is cooled. I put it on a plate. How's that, Ralph?
It's great. It's been sitting all day. We just got back, and it's time for the topping.
Yeah, so we're going to make the glaze for it now, and I'm probably going to put almost a cup of powdered sugar in this bowl here. Okay, and then I like to put a little cinnamon in mine. This is totally optional. You wouldn't have to do it, but you can. And then I've got some milk here. We're just going to put in... Let's start with about a tablespoon of milk. Making icing is sort of like, well, you kind of have to get the consistency right. You can always put in more powdered sugar, but you can't take out milk. So if it's not thick enough, then you know what? You can add more powdered sugar. If it's too thick, then you can add a little bit more milk. The thicker that it is, the longer it may take to sort of set.
And don't you want it also to be loose enough to drizzle and...
Yeah, kind of drip down the sides. This is pretty good right here. I think I'd like it a little thicker though. I'll put a little bit more powdered sugar in. So, you know, it's not a... And the reason why it's brown instead of just a white glaze is because that's what you're seeing is the cinnamon.
Okay, so you just
which makes it that color. But it also kind of gives it, you know, a nice bit of, just a little bit of spice rather than it just being like, you know, the super
pure
sweet.
Sweetness.
Exactly. Okay.
All right.
Okay, you see that?
Do that again. Let's see. Okay, so it's the wetness that you want to drizzle and drip.
Mm-hmm. Good.
I just saw you licking that spoon.
Now, I like to use a brush. And first thing I do is I want to make sure that I get it all across the top. I could just pour this in and let it go, and it would do that. But I like, sometimes then you get too much that pools down the side of the cake. And so I just like to put it on with sort of a
kind of brings out the
basting
artist,
brush.
Brings out the artist in you too.
There you go.
But I've
now,
also heard that the frosting or this icing will kind of hold in the moisture, keep it moist longer.
It does. Cakes that are frosted will stay a little bit more moist because they're almost sort of sealed. Now I'm going to put a little icing on the edge, and you see what happens, Ralph? When the icing's sort of on the edge.
Uh-oh, it's dripping.
Exactly, but that's okay. I want it to drip. I want to get sort of that.
So you put a little extra thickness at the edge so that it will drip intentionally and create a nice little effect.
Exactly. So we're just going to go around here.
It's looking really good.
And just put that all around the edge.
And there's kind of a lip on there the way it bakes, so you almost have to get it over the edge.
You almost have to. You can kind of push it a little bit. See, if the icing is too thick, then it won't fall.
Right.
So this is falling just beautifully.
Well, you've done it enough that you know to get the right consistency. But folks learning it for the first time will
that's
have to
okay.
kind of experiment a little
But
bit.
that's what it's all about. You just sort of trial and error. Okay, so I'm going to keep putting this on, and then we're just going to let it drip. You know, the frosting will sort of harden a little bit, and then it's ready.
And maybe we'll get some decaf going so we can have some coffee with our coffee cake a little bit later.
And this is of course this is made for coffee, but of course I think it's great just how it is too. So, all right, we'll be back.
We were saying how coffee cake is good to share with neighbors, and we've got one right here.
How about that?
Hey, Jack.
See how it worked out? Okay. Okay, Ralph. Now the glaze is dried, and we're going to cut into it.
It looks like a very substantial and solid coffee cake.
Well, if you remember, the batter was thick. You know, the cake batter.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm going to... The first slice, there we go.
Ooh. Oh, wow.
Isn't that nice? So, you know, what you get is you kind of get this ripple of cream cheese up the sides and in the middle. And again, we're just gonna...
I remember when you made it before, it was not too sweet, just kind of a nice accompaniment to a good cup of coffee.
Perfect.
If you do say so yourself.
Well, of course the pecans are wonderful in there. You know, there's a hint of cinnamon because there's cinnamon in the glaze.
Yeah.
And there's a little cinnamon in the cake. And then you get that really sweet, creamy cheese in there.
What about the pecans?
Yeah, wonderful. A crunch. And of course, pecans have I think pecans sort of have a sweet flavor of their own.
So it's all good.
So it's all good. You know, great for, you know, company or to take over to somebody who may have invited you over for dinner.
Now that the weather's kind of cooling down and people want to warm up with a cup of coffee and a nice coffee cake, we've got this delicious cream cheese coffee cake with pecans.
There it is. We had a great time putting this one together. Hope you had a great time being with us.
We're going to have a great time eating it and sharing it with friends and neighbors and coffee.
We sure will. That's just what we're going to do. They're coming over later. And Thanks for being a part of this one. We'll see you next time on
Cavalcade
Cavalcade
of
of Food.
Food.
Bye.
Bye-bye.